To me, there are 6 general conclusions that I've come to in this process. You basically start in doing things like this, which we do for our clients. You start with a tabletop. Just think of a tabletop. It's just empty. And when you start to try to figure out what those clients' issues are that they've asked you to come and look at, you just start listening. My first 2 hours with Kevin, I just listened. 2 hours, he talked an hour, 55 minutes. And as you get pieces of information, you just set it on the table, and slowly things start to stack up. And you can't predict these conclusions, and you can't rush the conclusions. You can't try to hurry and get there. They only come when they come. And when they come, they're just obvious. I could talk about each of these 6 conclusions. I could talk about them, every one of them. I could defend them for an hour with examples. The first conclusion is just that the AEDC's performance, in my opinion, it isn't good enough. Now listen, I rewrote that sentence 50 times because I want to deliver it graciously. I don't want to indict anybody. I don't want to point fingers at anybody, but we got to do better than this for our community. We just have to do better than this for our community. This is a very interesting point. It's not good or bad. It's just a fact, but it informs how we think about doing business going forward. Many of our big successes come to us. I wish I could show everybody my spreadsheet. And when you go down it and you look at the deals, there's all kinds of interesting things, all fascinating things on that in that data. But many of our deals, they come to us. And I'm talking about as the EDC. We do a lot of running around chasing deals, at the EDC. Mostly it's Kevin's job. That's mostly our leaders' job, our past leaders' jobs. But our best deals come to us. They come to us. POB, produce our own beef. It came to us. Those guys were building that thing in Amarillo. They were never going anywhere else. And they didn't do the deal because of us. And we're only paying them $5,000. We're giving them $1,000. They're not hiring any new people because of what we did. We I don't know if we sold them or leased. I think we're leasing them some land to put their drainage in. Forgive my layman version of that. We had no impact on that deal. It was just people being, building things and inventing things and being innovative and being forward thinking. And it's a great deal and we should talk about it and it's fantastic. But it came to us. Amazon came to us. Maxor came to us. I could go down the list. I have a list. I'm not looking at my notes, but I have a list. A lot, and they came, and that's all good. But it's very important. I'll come back to it later. I'm not saying that's bad. And we go chase some deals down where we find them from somebody else. It's not none of them come, but many of them come to us, and you'll see where I go with this in just a minute. Number 3, we lack a clear vision. Mostly vision. And as a result of that, we lack direction. We virtually have no goals, and we have no strategy. But let me tell you what salesmen want. Salesmen need to know what they have to sell, and they need to know that it's good. We don't know who we are. Like we're selling ourselves to the world, and it's a competitive dog-eat-dog world. Like it's a fight. And we better have a clear vision about who we are. And I'm just telling you, we don't have one. And because we don't have a vision, and I don't mean a vision, I'm not talking about, a vision doesn't say, we just hope we grow more jobs. That's not vision. That's a dream. A vision has a lot more specificity to it. And it's something, it should be aspirational, but we should think we can get there. And until you have that and it's clear, then you can set direction. Like if there's no vision, it's just like, oh, we're just trying to get jobs. Then you know what you do with that vision? You just look all over across the landscape and just see anywhere we could find a job. It's a shotgun approach. We don't have goals. We had discussions about Kevin's last bonus, and we had to look into his goal. We look at how things went in 24. And Kevin told me I met all my goals. I get my bonus every year. I said, could you send me? I got the goals. I printed them out. I got them here. They're not goals. I'm just telling you, they're not goals. I don't know who proved them. I don't know who said they were good. They're not goals. The main work product of Kevin's goals, this is not Kevin's fault, by the way, are all the trips that he was going to do in 2024 to go see people. That is not a goal. That's getting close to tactics. Close. Not even tactics, but it's not a goal. And then the last thing you do, once you know the goal would be in the next 5 years, we want to realize 6,000 jobs. And you would have to know what you defined as a job. Then the last thing you do is you make a strategy. You got to figure out where am I finding those 6,000 jobs or whatever the number is. We don't have any of these things. And that's why we're not doing that amazing. We didn't have it before Kevin got here. I'm not just tagging this on the last 5 years. I can see no signs that we ever had this very well. This is a very interesting point to me too. This is true of the EDC ecosystem, but it's also true of us. There exists a pervasive, and by pervasive I don't mean negative. I don't mean bad. I don't mean anyone's doing anything wrong. I mean it's across the board. It's everywhere. Motivation to create a win tally. It showed up in the CVMR discussion. CVMR comes. They ask for an extension. The mayor asked for a meeting to say, could we hear what's going on before we give them their extension? Kevin wanted to give them the extension. It became really obvious in a conversation that I had with CVMR's CFO that there was no deal. There was never a deal. They were never going to come build that plant here. And Kevin wanted an extension. And he wasn't being bad, wasn't being evil, but he wanted the extension because that was 1,000 jobs. At the end of that discussion, I said, Kevin, why are you pushing for this extension? Like this thing is dead on arrival. Like if we kick it down the road 6 months, it's still dead on arrival. And he struggled and kind of struggled. The answer was it's 1,000 jobs. And maybe if there's a 1% chance of hanging on to it, because you know why? That's how we measure. That's how we measure these guys. We have a hard time negotiating in the EDC and in the AEDC. We talked about a deal once. We're talking to somebody, they're already here, a partner, they want to expand some more. We're getting just a brief update on the deal. We talk about it, and we talk about we're going to help them build something. We're going to give them tax abatements. And I'd say, do we have to give them this much tax abatements? And of course, I'm the ignorant guy in the room. And I'm sure the team has many times looked at me and thought, you just don't know what you're doing yet. You'll eventually understand how this works. And we talked about how much it was, and I said, okay, so I was trying to get my hands around the negotiation. How do they go? What happens? How tough are they? Where do we start? Where do they start? Do they come in with demand? I'm just trying to understand it because all I know is I want to give less tax abatements away than more. I would like it to be zero. There's laws about how far we can go. 10 by 10 is the most we can go. We gave these people 8 by 8. So 80% the first year, 70, 60, 50, 40. And so I asked, I said, what did they ask for? And people were looking at me and the answer was they didn't ask for anything. We gave them, this is what offer we made. They didn't counter the offer. You know why? Because it's a very good offer. When you make somebody an offer and they don't counter, you offer them too much. My question, though, was, could we just start out with 40, maybe, instead of 80, or 20, and make them ask for 20% more? This is true of the EDC culture. They're in a competition for deals. And to balance this conversation, there is times we have to compete for these jobs. And it's very important. I'll get to it in a moment about it. It informs what I think we have to do differently going forward. But those people, someone said they could go build this in Kentucky. And so maybe Kentucky gave them something and that totally exists. So it's just not like everyone's an idiot for giving away tax. But I want to negotiate because you know what? Tax abatements, they are the oil in our engine of our city. They are our lifeblood. Like the engine doesn't run without that oil in it. And you got to keep pouring more and more oil in it, just like you have to in any other engine. And I would like not to give away tax abatement. You know why? Because I pay my taxes, and you pay your taxes, and everyone's here pay their taxes. And the people coming to town who don't have to pay taxes, they're still going to call the police. And they're still going to call the fire engines out when the building's burning down. And they're still going to expect the roads and the sewage and the electricity and all that stuff to work. And I want them to pay their taxes. That's my taxpayer hat. That's not my AEDC hat. But we have created an environment where our guys need wins. Because, and you know why? Because we don't have a clear vision and direction and goals. And so it's a self-preservation technique psychologically. We need to say the first 15 minutes, look, Alex, 5,000 jobs. And all the deals were, I'm looking at deals and I go, why did we do that deal? And I got people now, after the fact, Kevin's gone, saying, I don't know why we did that deal. That wasn't a very good deal. And there's this, it's in the culture of EDCs to create wins. And it makes us do deals that aren't as good, and it makes us do deals we just should never do them. There's a lack of board oversight and loose operational practices in place at the AEDC. Kevin said to me, listen, I could talk about this for an hour. I assumed this not to be true. But one of the, I'm trying to think about where I start, but Kevin said to me, several times we had this conversation, Kevin said to me, Alex, I've never had a board member this involved. And at one point he said, you understand things about the AEDC that no board member that I've ever had understands. And that shouldn't be possible in 90 days. I'm not really that smart. Like I say that with total genuineness. I'm just average smart. Like, and my point is, anyone can figure this out. This is not rocket science. The AEDC board, I don't think they could understand the budget. It's not a budget. Like, it's just not a budget. And no one who's ever had a budget would call it a budget. And I don't know why no one ever said, this feels like, is this a budget? Like, when you look at a budget, you think you know what's going to happen, and you think it's going to be accurate. But our budget, it isn't accurate. We know it isn't accurate. I don't know why anyone, and to understand it, because of the vagueness of it, you got to understand the nuances of the deals. You got to understand the nuances of what we committed to Albers. We've made a deal with Albers that I have a lot of questions about now. We gave essentially a startup operation $8 million in cash. And then we committed to build them a $50 million hangar and told them they're not going to have to pay taxes on it. And I'm getting familiar with them. I'm in contact with them. I have hope that they're going to be fine. I think they have great intentions. They have done a lot of other good things. They are no CVMR. But I'm going to tell you, people don't understand that deal. Our board didn't understand that deal. You don't understand that deal. Most people don't understand that deal. And so the other thing Kevin said to me in my second conversation, he's telling me all these places he goes, all this work he does, all these people he goes and sees, all these site selectors, all these conventions that he goes to. The guy worked very hard. Flew all over the country, flew all over the world to see people, meet with people, go to things. And at one point I started thinking, okay, what do you need from your board? Like, I'm feeling like I need to offer to help him. And I said, Kevin, what do you need from your board? Like the board left, they're gone. And I'm kind of the only guy here. Like, what do you need from me? So I don't need anything from you, Alex. He said, I don't need anything from my board. He said, I got it. He said, you're just volunteers. He wasn't insulting me. He was letting me off, but it was a very gentle brush back, like, I got it. Just show up at the board meetings. Who goes over the board minutes? The agenda, what do we, I assumed I was going to have to plan that. No, I got it. I'll show it to you before. Just come. I'll tell you what to do. Gave us an update on CVMR that it wasn't accurate. I think that would have, is expenses. First time I ever sat down with Kevin to talk about his expenses. He got a little short with me. I looked at one receipt and I said, what is this receipt? And he got a little frustrated with me, directed me to another place. And I'm going to tell you, I know you guys had a little spat amongst yourself about Mr. Hyde's work on the expenses. Whatever you spent on it, I'm just glad you did it before you changed your rules, because that $18,000, I think it was immensely valuable to me. There are things in the expenses that shouldn't be on our expenses if you're running a tight ship. There are many, many, many receipts for hundreds of dollars at a time where there's no record of who was there. One of our early conversations, we had a conversation about the range. I said, Kevin, I waited till like the 5th meeting. I didn't want to talk about the range. I didn't want this to be about the range. I said, Kevin, talk about the range. Talk to me. Tells me reserves in the range. And it's painful. It's painful, full painful story. And it was a little bit, the board, the guys on the board told me to give the money. Okay, so it was a little bit of, look, I got told to do that. And I was pressing Kevin because I wanted to know like where he was on it. Like I didn't care really whose fault it was. It wasn't good, the story of the range. It isn't good. And we can brush it under the rug if we want, we can do that if we want. But I'm talking to the guy who's the CEO of his organization I'm the chairman of, and I need that guy to recognize when things aren't good, that you got to own it so that we know it's not going to happen again. And I said, Kevin, okay, but they told you to do it, but how did you feel? And he said, Alex, it was loose. And I said, Kevin, is that how everything is at the AEDC? He said, yeah. Everything at the AEDC is loose. It was an honest moment. I had a lot of honest moments with Kevin. And he said, it was like this when I got here. So I know Kevin doesn't really know how it was before he got here, but it's not like Kevin came in and he was just like Mr. Loose. Like he operated the way the EDC operates. And this has to change going forward if we're going to run a tight ship at the EDC and get everything out of it. You can't fix something if you can't say it. And this is the part of the presentation, of the discussion today, the conclusion. It's like the tough part. Like it's the part where we just take a hard look at ourselves and say, we got to do that better. Really, what I would say in my world is own your stuff, like own your problems. So like we have an employee that has a problem. I don't mind if they make a mistake. I just want them to own it, because if they own it, they probably won't do it again. If they don't own it, 100% they're doing it again. This showed up, took me time. It's the most important of all the things in the presentation. It's the most, in my opinion. Like you look at all kinds of stuff when you're doing evaluations like this, and most of them are symptoms. Some of the most egregious things, they're only symptoms. There's some deeper thing below. And in my opinion, this is the deepest thing at the bottom of the how could we do better discussion. This is the deepest thing. And it comes out in 1,000 different ways. And it's just simply an underappreciation that this is somebody's money. Like, I think it's an EDC probably kind of thing, but the money is just coming in. And it's coming in every year. And it's going to probably this year for 1 year, like it went down like some 1% this year. But in general, it's growing and it's rising and it's coming. And we can't really even stop it, because if we all decided today, not that we get to decide this, we're stopping EDC, we still got to fund the thing for like 10 more years. If Amarillo said let's stop, like it's coming, it's going on, and it's going on and on. But in my conversations with Kevin about the range, and my conversations with other people about the range, and my conversations with Kevin about expenses, you can't describe our success in jobs that leave people misunderstanding what's going on. You can't do deals like CVMR. You can't do deals where we give away more than we should when you utterly appreciate that we are spending people's money. I don't care how everyone does it. Like we're talking about our neighbors' money. And I just think over time, I think we slowly lose time. You can't look at you guys, this is the CDC thing. Like we're an EDC, we take in money. We're a part of this a state association, we give them money. We're a part of like a panhandle association, we give them money. They give each other money. We're a part of some association that represents the traffic that goes from Del Rio to Canada. We pay in money for that. We give the Amarillo Chamber of Commerce $80,000 a year. I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure I know why we do that. But we will spend this year over $300,000 in dues and subscriptions to other people like us. We go to conventions. I had 3 conversations with Kevin about things that he went to, things that he goes to, where we're spending money. Every one of them ended with my question. So what do we get out of that, Kevin? What do we get? Okay, we get in our companies. We could go to a convention every week of our life. The only people who make money at conventions are people who put on conventions. And so we don't go to hardly any of them. And when we do them, we do it we try to do it smarter than anybody else. We do this is what we do. This is how we chase things down. And the first one I asked, I said, Kevin, so what did we get? What did we leave with? Do we leave with leads? He said, no, we didn't get anything out of it. He said, we're not going back to that one. But they had been 5 times in a row. People aren't thinking, listen, we're spending the community's money on expenses. Here's what I said. Here's what I'd like you to think about when you turn in expense reports. I would like to think about what you would turn in if you had to put that thing on the web when you came home and show all of Amarillo what you did with every dollar. Not saying Kevin ever took anything, stole anything. It's just too loose. We're spending everyone else's people, someone else's, everyone, our neighbors, 17-year-olds who go to Toot and Totem. The people who can't afford to take their laundry like I can. The wealthy people, everybody, we all give this money. We owe our community a tight-run ship. And if we could wake up every day thinking about that, we would do business, differently at the EDC.